Welcome to another episode of TLDR. In this episode, we're going to take a look at my Week 3 TTS League matchup, which was A-Force versus Sentinels. In this game, I decided to try A-Force out. I rolled a die, and the die ended up on A-Force, so I ended up playing them this week. I wanted to show you the roster real quick before we get into the game, just so you understand like how I got to the squad that I got at. This by no means is any kind of model A-Force list. I just put in models I want to try, like Rescue, obviously Jane Foster, like the key, what I think might be key A-Force models. I think Storm probably should be here, but I want to try Rescue out because I just painted her. Then I threw in staples like Zemo, Bill, Juggernaut, and then Nick Fury. We ended up on Jailbreak and Guardian Save Shi'ar. One of the reasons I wanted to test out A-Force, or it's in my rotation to test out, is I'm going through a slew of teams that score well or can play the scenario game pretty well. This particular version by no means is like optimal, but like She-Hulk, Black Cat, Spec, Fury, Bill can all play the scenario game pretty well. And then models like Jane can punch when I need some punching, and Zemo when I need some punching. But I think a duel is probably where this list ends up going if I play it anymore. So we got Jailbreak and Guardian Save Shi'ar. I lost Prio here, so I was able to pick Threat, and I chose 20th Threat. I'm going to go with She-Hulk, Rescue, Okoye, Nick Fury, and Jane. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to try Rescue, again, because she's new and I haven't played much with her. I want to bring Fury because I inject him into a lot of lists for sources when I'm not sure how I want to handle it. That might ultimately prove to be incorrect over time, but for this matchup, I thought it was right. I really like playing Bill at these higher threats because Bill with extra power is so good. But once we take a look at the map we're on in a second, it'll make a little bit more sense of why I went with Nick Fury and the strategy that I went with. The big decision was really Juggernaut versus Jane. And because of the map that we're on, and I'm going to go to the next slide here, you can see this giant size 5, the size 4, and the size 3. I felt that Juggernaut and his sliding was not going to be great here. So having a flyer that could also help special delivery rotate She-Hulk, I thought was going to be the right play here for squad construction. And then between Rescue and Jane, I had options where if I need to pivot She-Hulk round 2, 3, wherever, to where the action needs to be, the flyers were going to be really important for that. Obviously, you need to have flyers to play a special delivery in the first place. But Juggernaut wasn't going to be able to get She-Hulk where she needed to be. And again, I think sliding down these avenues was going to be difficult for Juggernaut. I'd probably have to play him on the right-hand side, and I didn't really want to telegraph that with 5 threat. I'd like my 5 threat to have options. So I ended up going with Jane, and the fact that she's affiliated just made a lot of sense here. This list is playing Brace. I don't know if that's correct or not. I just jam Brace and fallback when I'm not sure what to do. And then I brought in I so that I can move models into bodyguard range, which does happen this game. Recal in case Jenny or Jane takes a giant spike from a Sentinel, and then special delivery for the rotation and abilities that I talked about before. So I guess we can get into the deployment a little bit here. My goal, based on the way this map is set up, with the pay to flip and the sources, I want to bring Fury so the grunts can just keep getting one of these for free every turn. So I put Okoye, the grunts, and Fury on this left-hand side down here because my goal round 1 is I want to get the grunts sitting here all game just collecting, Fury sitting here, and Okoye sitting here, so that I create sort of a catcher's mitt. Because of the size 5, I know I'm not really too worried about these Sentinels rotating down there, so it's just the Omega Sentinel and Bastion up top that I think will come down to try to break parity at some point. And when that happens, they're going to be walking into Fury's gun line. Between the grunts, Fury, they're going to be able to output some good damage there. Omega Sentinel can be ripped apart fairly easily. She doesn't have really like special defensive tech. Bastion, a little bit more problematic with the DR and then maybe sitting on that size 5. But again, they're going to have to walk into me. And then Okoye is going to take shots for Fury and for the grunts on this side. Rescue's goal is to end up over here. Again, just collecting that extract and sitting on that secure and trying to flip it, hopefully. And then I want to get my Jane and my She-Hulk up to this point, round 1, because I know on this particular crisis there's nothing midline. So we're going to end up on parity. The only thing my opponent can maybe try to do is he could maybe try to like run his Omega Sentinel down to my side over here and try to flip it. But if I can get Okoye and Fury there, I don't think he won't be able to flip over them, and then he'd be really risking a lot for very little gain. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to end up at parity round 1. So knowing that, I want to get my She-Hulk and Jane into a central position so that they can pivot to either this side or this side, whichever side I think is going to help me break parity, right? Because we're going to both be going 4-4 round 1. And if we both do nothing, we'll sit at 4-4 all game and we'll just play it forever. So we're both going to be looking for ways to break parity. I assume for him, it's going to be Omega Sentinel trying to flip over something or use her mobility. For me, it's going to be Jane and She-Hulk special delivering, trying to get to whichever side I think I can steal an extract, flip a secure, whatever the case may be. I really like Jenny here because his Sentinels are size 5, so I can throw 12 die builders. That's something he's going to be concerned about throughout the game. The only weakness here, I think, in my deployment is with Rescue down here, I can only flip or pick up the extract. I'm going to hope he dangles a Sentinel out that I can maybe hit round 1 and generate a power. Usually with A-Force, I can dangle a different model, let them get hit and generate power, but that's not really an option here because there's nothing on the midline. So worst case scenario, if I only have 1 power on Rescue, I'll just grab that extract and then I'll run She-Hulk over here to flip that and set Jane, still in the same general area within 2 of She-Hulk, so I can still special delivery round 2 and go where I need to go. I would rather get them more central if I can, because it's going to give me more options round 2. But overall, I'm not too unhappy if She-Hulk just has to flip round 1. And then round 2, he has priority. So he's going to, if he wants to do something, he's going to come into my Jenny and Jane, or he's going to have to come into Nick Fury. And I'm kind of okay with it. I like going last here. I'm not upset about not having priority. Round 1 largely plays out the way I would expect it to. Fury and the Grunts grab and flip the secure on the left-hand side. I'm really glad that Fury didn't whiff here because I really want Okoye to start round 2 on 2 power so that she can bodyguard in case he tries anything with Omega Sentinel or Bastion, whatever the case may be. He makes one little mistake, though, in that he moves his Sentinel Mark IV, moves his Sentinel Mark IV up here. And the problem with that is twofold. One is that we're on jailbreak, so he actually should have dropped that extract. We catch it later in the round, but at that point, it's too late to go back and change it. So we just agree that going forward, we want to have some conversations about the jailbreaks and make sure that the range 5 is not an issue going forward. The other reason this is a mistake is that he moves his Sentinel up to be within range 3 or 4, whatever the case may be, is of my Rescue, so that he can do something next round. But the problem with that is now Rescue can walk up, grab the extract, shoot, and flip, which gives me freedom to get Jenny and Jane exactly where I want in the center of the battlefield. So I don't have to compromise. Now, because of this exact positioning, at not having She-Hulk down here, I can, medium move somewhere around here with Jane, drop off She-Hulk to this point over here, and I can double tap, triple tap, whatever the case may be, is into Bastion or Mega Sentinel. I feel great about that. Alternatively, I can get her, I can move her to here, drop She-Hulk down here, and then triple tap into Sentinel Prime, Sentinel Mark IV, or his Viper. That's what this by the way, this represents Viper. You can't see her in any of my screenshots, so I just use this purple circle for this round. So again, a little bit of mistake here. The other mistake is that we can't move the Mark V Prime, whatever it's called. This is a short move right here, so he actually can't move the Mark V for whatever, the Prime, through the Sentinel Mark IV. So the positioning is a little awkward here. He probably wants that Sentinel Mark IV back there holding the extract so he won't drop it. But 2, did not give me any free outs with Rescue round 1. I was hoping he would do that round 1, and that's actually a little bit of a flaw in my strategy. If you're hoping for your opponent to make a mistake in their positioning, you probably have a flawed game plan. So that's something I'll have to come back to and think about. I think I'm okay with, She-Hulk and Jane being somewhere more located over here. I could still probably get a lot of value from that, but it's something to keep in mind for the future. We don't want to bank on that. The rest of the round, that's the round 1 ends with a 4-4 parity with Omega Sentinel and Bastion on the top left. The other 3 models for him on the top right. And I've got my Jane and Jenny exactly where I want going into round 2. Top of 2, he does what I expect, which is to bring my Rescue in via the restraint cables. and then lay into her with an attack and suppression protocols. He makes a little bit of a mistake, or I don't, maybe not a mistake, big gamble here in that he's going to spend all of Sentinel Prime's power to do rerolls to try to get her, and he's going to whiff on that, unfortunately. I do spend like the power to add dice to rescue, but I feel really fortunate here for her to live because of the positioning of his models and the power situation that they're on. Rescue is actually incredibly safe here from this point forward because now I can move back down to my extract, grab it, and sit in a pretty safe position because as we pointed out last round, Sentinel Prime can't walk through this Sentinel. He's got no power to pull in rescue, not that he could with the car there anyway. So she's under no threat from Sentinel Prime, and there's just that Viper that's sitting in the middle that could come down and threaten her. But a 4-dice attack into my sitting behind a car with cover, I don't feel awful about those chances at that moment. So I feel pretty good here. At that point, I'm going to get my rescue away and then just wait to see what he does. And he's going to move his Viper and get really aggressive here. This is another mistake on his part. He actually should have moved his Viper to take that extract. But at this point, he doesn't realize that his Sentinel Prime is on 0 power. He wasn't thinking about it at that moment. And he would have moved his Viper there to take that extract had he realized it. So an unfortunate misplay from him. But he was on vacation with his family around. So sometimes that happens. So he is going to make that mistake with Viper. And then I'm going to just take another pass action. I'm going to just let Okoye sit and pass and let her do her thing. He's going to move Bastion up, take some shots into Nick Fury or Okoye. And then Nick Fury is going to attack into Bastion and Spike and do 3 damage to him, which gets Eye in the Sky online, which is great for me. Nothing too exciting here. He still has his Prime and his Omega Sentinel. I'm expecting an Omega Sentinel rotation because I'm passing with Okoye sort of, and 2 models sitting on there. He can't really flip that over them, and if he does, they're just going to get laid into by another model. So he's looking to rotate Omega Sentinel around, and he actually misses on the pay to flip, unfortunately. Really, really lucky. At this point, the things are working out really well for me. Rescue's living longer than she should, and then he's missing pay to flips that he really needed to hit. So super unlucky for him at that point, but we're going to take advantage of that. So given that, I now have some options with Jenny and She-Hulk, or Jane and She-Hulk. I can choose to go into the Sentinels and start playing an attrition game, but because he whiffed on that secure, I see no reason to attack. At this point, I've got 2 of the extracts. He can't possibly get 2 extracts because of the power management and the Viper management earlier. And he's now left a secure unattended up here, which means I can easily rotate with Jane and She-Hulk, hopefully flip that secure, almost 100% flip that secure between the 2 of them. One of them should get it. And then I'm sitting at 5 VPs to his, 2 VPs. Nothing Sentinel Prime can really do to affect that at that point. So we're going to absolutely take that advantage. We rotate She-Hulk, we rotate Jane using special delivery. I only do 1 damage into Bastion despite all of those resources. But most importantly is I'm able to flip the point, and I put a tremendous VP pressure now on him at this point. So he's going to go with Sentinel Prime, and he's going to attack She-Hulk and move her. So that way She-Hulk can't double tap into Bastion. And I feel pretty good about this. I could get really greedy at this point and try to steal this extract over there. I think that's a little too greedy because then his Sentinels can just lay into her next round and she's not in a position to defend her partners. She-Hulk's role in this list is to definitely bodyguard and play the scenario game. And I want her to try to keep, Nick Fury, etc. alive. One thing we missed earlier was that, oh no, that's actually next round. So at this point, I'm up on VPs. I feel no need to be extra aggressive. Just take what I have, and I'm going to rotate She-Hulk down here as my last activation. So she'll come down here. She'll take a punch into Bastion, deal 2 damage, leave him alive on 1. That's actually great for me. I'm okay with not dazing him here. Because he's slowed, he's not going to be able to affect a large swath of the board. And because he's alive on 1, it really dictates his opening activation next round and leaves him in a position where when I need to close the game out, I should be able to get him fairly easily. And and his activations to be able to make sure I finish parity in round 4 or 3 or whatever to close the game out. So at the end of round 3, I'm going to go up 9-6. I have tremendous VP pressure at this point, and I feel really good. It's at this point, it's kind of hard to mess up. Between his dice and a couple of mistakes, it's put me in a tremendous advantage at this point. All right, opening up round 3, Bastion's going to beam into Okoye and Fury and do an attack. Doesn't get either model, and he really needed that to create some tempo going his way. Fury does take 6, which is not great for me, but I'm able to then move my rescue into position to be bodyguarded by She-Hulk and Okoye. It's also notable that he burned Recount Indom last round to keep his Bastion alive, and I feel great about that. So now that Rescue's in position here, she's going to be able to get bodyguarded by She-Hulk and Okoye. Okoye can also bodyguard my Fury Grunts, so he can only do 3 attacks because the Sentinel Mark IV can move up here. Viper can move over here, and Omega Sentinel can move over here. And none of them have enough power to be able to charge or do anything else besides move and attack. So I can eat 2 of those attacks, and maybe Rescue lives through a 3rd. We'll see if that works out there. But either way, it's going to be really hard for him to sort of generate any kind of momentum here because of the bodyguard bunker. So I feel great about that. All right, so he does move the Mark IV up onto this building. He's going to restraint cable my rescue in, but when he goes to attack, I'm going to Eye in the Sky her back into position to get bodyguarded by She-Hulk, who takes the attack, takes like a damage, and rescue lives for another activation. He then moves in. I go with Okoye and just like pass the activation. He moves in Omega Sentinel and Viper after Omega Sentinel flipped the point. Between the 2 of them, one gets rescue. Omega Sentinel gets rescue, and Omega Sentinel gets the extract back. Fury activates and lays into Viper, dealing 4 damage to her. He was really hoping that with Viper, he could either daze Fury or, prevent that activation. But right here, he's gone through 3 activations and is only able to daze 1 model who was alive on 1. So right now, again, the tempo is really favoring me at this point, and the bodyguard bubble is being really clutch at wasting my opponent's activations. So moving along, I just activate Jane, I grab an extract, and I sit outside of range 4 of his his prime. So his prime has to walk and bring Jane in if he wants to do anything with her, or he has to come up with something else to do with prime's activation. He decides to just go and grab this source extract up top. That's his last activation for the round. And then I rotate my She-Hulk down here to flip this point and just really put sort of the nail in the coffin for the game. Normally, I don't think I would have rotated She-Hulk there to deny the VP. Maybe it's worth it because it's a 2 VP swing. But I think if the game was a little bit closer, I probably consider just laying into a Mega Sentinel and continuing the bodyguard bunker of Rescue and Nick Fury, and then letting her do some attacks into some of these models and maybe some displacement, whatever the case may be is. But because I was so far ahead, I felt like I could take a quote-unquote gamble here and just try to close the game out and shut the door. So I'm going to be able to score another 5 VPs, 2 extracts, and 3 secures, and that puts us in a commanding position into round 4. He has priority, but because Jane is up here and She-Hulk is down here, it's really hard for him to stop me from scoring 2. So at this point, we just agree, we're just going to throw some dice at each other. We have some fun. She-Hulk does go up and daze his Sentinel Prime by throwing a whole bunch of dice into him and some buildings and stuff. So that was fun. But yeah, that was the A-Force, TLDR, A-Force versus Sentinels. I think that A-Force feels pretty good into them because they're trying to deny power, but we can sort of generate power from nothing while they're attacking us. And this particular game was a great example of like taking an opponent's misstep and then denying them opportunities going forward between the bodyguard bubbles, the rotations, etc. So hopefully you learned something from this game and look forward to the next TLDR coming out hopefully later today or the next day with my Atlantic City Open top 4 game into Jin.